All right. Like we're the only two people in the room, simply relaxing and attempting to make sense of something really crazy. I'm going to lay everything out there. So what did Aurora Vane really end up doing? She had this amazing presence, and for a brief moment, she was the biggest celebrity in Hollywood. This narrative of Aurora Vane isn't just a passing fad. It's one of those riddles that continues becoming lighter, so let's really get into it, relax, and grab whatever you're drinking. About 5 years ago, she made her final known public appearance, if you can call it that, at this sizable business event. I remember seeing photos of her in this stunning green gown, but there was a profound, unnerving emptiness in her eyes instead of the typical sparkle. Before she was fully consumed by the silent, often vicious side of Hollywood, she was intriguing, magnetic, and a veritable force of nature on every red carpet, talk show, and frame. There were no elaborate goodbye tours, no official farewells, and no well-crafted press announcements about taking a break, just this abrupt, terrifying end to everything that left everyone completely perplexed. Did she just quit? Was the question that people were asking each other, but it felt more serious than that. Although she was grinning for the cameras, it was a brief moment before she vanished. Then there was nothing but quiet. In reality, Aurora Vane was oh man. Her most recent film set box office records and established her as a genuine, undeniable superstar. Her performances were legendary, unvarnished, fierce, and utterly compelling, and she was on top of the world. She had a way of engrossing you in whatever part she was playing and making you feel as though you were there. But just after that, massive triumph. The woman who commanded every scene she appeared in with ease just withdrew. The silence wasn't initially empty, but the public thought she was taking a well-earned respite and resting after all that effort. Rather, there were murmurs, a faint murmur of conjecture and anxiety that would not go away. Oh, she's probably just stressed out. She's totally burned out from the grind. She just wants a quiet life away from the relentless glare of the spotlight. Were the initial, somewhat standard stories that are spread about any great star. It was the first visible rift in the immaculately polished exterior she had always kept up. She was stuttering, and her eyes were darting around the room as if she was trying to find a way out. She said something very cryptic about shadows in the light before someone hurriedly, almost frantically, dragged her out of there. Even though her public rage, the iconic awards ceremony, and fame were all very normal and understandable, they felt really unnerving. People attempted to dismiss it as jitters or exhaustion, but you secretly thought that those early hypotheses were simply too basic for the complex, tangled web that was about to slowly and painfully come undone. We started to hear murmurs as those rumors about her became more intense and took on a darker tone. The scene was like a loud, blaring alarm indicating that something much more complex and profoundly distressing was going on behind the scenes. It wasn't just a moment of awkwardness or a celebrity having a bad night. Even her former co-stars, with whom she had worked closely for years, started posting these extremely ambiguous but completely unnerving posts online about extremely powerful people in the industry pulling strings. You know, the kind of people who can make issues go away with a single phone call, or whispers about some big, long-standing scandal being painstakingly buried and cleaned up. The message was frighteningly clear despite the carefully phrased, nearly coded wording. It hinted at some form of forced quiet or compulsion, which is a scenario in which Aurora might had no choice. One notable message from an old acquaintance of hers said, "Some lights just go out. They don't fade, and they're flicked off every now and then." It became very clear that people were no longer merely wondering about Aurora. Instead, it seemed as though they were deliberately trying to harm her, or possibly advancing some dark, covert purpose that she was helpless to stop. This extremely alarming assertion, which said that even her closest friends and family members knew her innermost thoughts, started to circulate as those rumors became louder. Then came the juicy details of this massive, furious confrontation. she apparently had with her longtime manager just days before Aurora vanished entirely, raising questions about whether her circle had been corrupted or worse. There were reports of serious financial problems, or perhaps a long-simmering personal animosity that had been going on for years, but the reasons were obviously ambiguous. The timing was simply too suspect, regardless of the circumstances, for someone close to her, someone she implicitly trusted, to have set her up. It was also privately revealed that Aurora's family, who were clearly distressed and desperate, had actually hired a private investigator, which added another level of intrigue. This was more than simply them asking about it. It suggested that even her own blood had to seek expert assistance in order to try to uncover the answers, because they were unable to obtain clear answers through conventional means. The possibility that the very people she depended on, who were meant to keep her safe, may have actually orchestrated her entire demise is a horrifying one. The true surprise occurred when a document that had allegedly never been viewed by the public before surfaced and broke through the wall of silence that encircled her. It suggested that she was dealing with a far more serious and intimate issue. The document, which was allegedly obtained from a very private source, detailed a really difficult struggle for her mental health, a severe and almost debilitating personal crisis that had been kept well hidden from the public, and it talked of a lady who was on the verge of the implications of that paper were indisputable, even though the specifics are still unknown and being closely guarded because of how sensitive they are. The calm, ethereal star we always saw on the red carpet was a far cry from the edge that was suffering deeply behind closed doors. Vane was in a really vulnerable and precarious situation, and there is a horrible suspicion that this vulnerability was intentionally taken advantage of. It made your stomach turn to consider the kind of crushing pressure that can make anyone give way, the kind of isolation that eats at your soul, and the knowledge that this entire intensely personal struggle was purposely kept from the world as the public tried to understand these grim, almost unthinkable possibilities. The one big question that kept popping up louder and louder was, where is Aurora Vane now? With no verified sightings or formal public sightings, she remains a complete phantom. Comments from anyone connected to her. Simply this painful, wide-open space where a successful, remarkable career once existed. Her persistent disappearance bothers her devoted followers and former colleagues, sparking countless private and public discussions on whether she is truly free from the pressures of celebrity and living a quiet, anonymous existence, or if something far more sinister is at play. Before a recent incident, the world had come to terms with her disappearance and accepted that she was just gone. A disturbing revelation came to light online a few days ago. A distorted voice message from Aurora herself was allegedly featured in the shaky, muffled audio tape. Then there came this one very unnerving phrase, just 2 words, "I'm not alone." It was so faint that you could hardly hear it. As you might guess, the internet simply blew up. Was it an actual call for assistance, a coded secret communication, meant for a particular individual, or only a well-crafted, ruthless hoax? The impact was instantaneous, although it's hard to say if this was done to capitalize on her narrative and increase clicks. Without a doubt, time is running out, and whatever transpires next, or what is revealed in this recording, could fundamentally alter the final tragic chapter of Aurora Vane's mysterious tale. When you take everything into account, including Aurora, Vane's sudden and mysterious disappearance, all of the conflicting tales and whispers about her fate, the horrifying indications of betrayal from inside her own circle, and now this extremely unsettling new audio lead who only portrays a Hollywood mystery that is far more complex, personal, and, to be honest, tragic than any of her earlier on-screen characters. Is Aurora Vane's continued quiet the most painful cry of all, or will she ever truly return? Please express your theories in the comments section below. We're all just watching and waiting to see what you think. Do you think she's the victim of something especially horrible, or is there something more evil that we can't even fathom? Just picture her hidden like that, The largest and most significant support can occasionally come from ordinary people asking inquiries outside of all established channels. Please click the like button now to express your solidarity if this story touched you in any way. This isn't merely a drama, you know. There are actual suffering, genuine problems, and actual repercussions. This is true, so please click subscribe and turn on notifications. I promise. We'll be keeping a careful eye on every new development, piece of information that leaks, and twist as it occurs, because this story is far from over. Aurora Vane's quiet disappearance could culminate in a big dramatic bang, so stay tuned and locked in.